Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kosta and today I'm joined by yet another fantastic young professional from the music industry who will hopefully shed a little bit of light on what it is that he does. He's involved in an area of the music industry that I think is so pertinent to 2021, much more so than many other professions that we've discussed on this channel. His name is Riley Koenig. Riley started his passion for music at a very early age. He completed his ARCT in piano performance by age 18. Riley then earned a Bachelor of Music degree with a focus on film scoring from the famous Berkeley College of Music in 2011. Landing a temporary gig with a Vancouver audio production house, he found a passion for music in games and has gone on to score over 50 game titles with companies including, these are completely unknown, Nintendo, Sega, and Microsoft. Riley has also recently completed a doctorate of music in composition from the University of British Columbia, studying under Professor Stephen Chapman. I should say that me and Riley met while collaborating on a huge project. Huge project, huge name that everybody knows, huge company, huge franchise, but we can't say anything about it because it's not out yet, so stay tuned. It's my great pleasure to have a chat with Dr. Riley Koenig. Hey, Riley.
Hi, thanks so much. How's it going?
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks so much for coming on. What is a video game composer? What's that about?
A video game composer. Yeah, so in very simple terms, it's the guy who writes the music for the games. So,
Now, as an avid gamer myself, are you a gamer as well? And you just thought, hey, I need to kind of, work my video game addiction into my professional life somehow.
that's not how it started. I have played video games, since I was a young kid. I think my dad has a photo of me on like an old DOS line command kind of computer playing like some Disney Mickey Mouse game. So I've spent way too much time playing games, and actually growing up, I never actually saw it as a career opportunity. The reason I got into composition was I wanted to write music for film. And so that was my kind of my motive. That's why I went to Berkeley. That's why I studied film scoring. And then once I got, out of school and started looking for gigs, and I was like, okay, how do I actually make money with film? It's a very slow process with film. A lot of the indie filmmakers don't have any budgets, right? They're all on shoestring budgets. And music, I think, is something that has just become normalized to be free for all these film projects. With the expectation like, hey, if the thing does well, if we make money, maybe next time we can pay you, or, once you get enough credits, then you're deserving of it. And I quickly realized, you can't survive on that. And I was looking for just composing gigs, I think, on Craigslist, and I found that ad for an intern at this sound production house sort of thing. And we interviewed, and he's like, yeah, there's possibility to make music. You're going to do some sound design, you're going to do some voiceover, but like it was a paying gig, right? So I was like, okay, great. I get to do music stuff and I get paid, and it was all about video games. So we worked on a bunch of mobile kind of social casual games, and I found it like just as a viable way to have, artistic expression. I can still do what I want. It's fun. Like video game music is fun. There's not a lot of like doom and gloom and, aleatoric stuff. You're riffing on the 4-bar phrases, and you're just you're making people laugh and have fun and catchy melodies. And I was like, okay, this is great. And after that ended, I kind of kept pursuing that. And game devs are actually willing to pay for music. And I think that's great that music hasn't become, a free asset yet in the video game realm. And you can negotiate kind of more easily for revenue sharing, maybe with smaller projects or whatnot. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got started in the video game, industry, if you were. So it was more or less like a necessity to try to survive and actually make money with music, instead of putting in your free time and then hoping something comes out at the end. So
yeah. It sounds to me like you you were strategic about what you were doing with your career. It wasn't just kind of floundering around, like a ship's flag in the wind, but you was there was a bit of a determination there. And that's sort of what I'm interested in exploring in this part of my channel, is how ultimately I'm interested in helping younger musicians. When I was younger, when I had far less gray in my beard and my hair, it was a complete mystery to me. Okay, I'm a musician. I do this, I do a bit of that. How can I pay my bills? How can I, how does this work? What I found is this complete lack of any sort of music business education in the schools that I went. I went to some pretty good schools in Canada, as did you. Yeah. It was missing. I didn't find the elective, and I looked for it. I'm like, oh, elective, let me take that, let me learn. I went to the business school. What was I doing there? Let me see if there's any, arts, sort of entertainment, kind of something to do with it. Nothing. I didn't find anything. So now I thought, well, talk to the people that are involved in it and see how they did it. So we've had a kind of a brief snapshot of kind of your professional life. Now I guess we'll explore further, but what I want to do is go back a little bit into kind of your education and your training. Okay. Because I do think there's a bit of a kind of a folk myth that you're a musician. Okay, well, you just do it. Why do you need to go to school, get all these degrees and all these things? So that's what I want to investigate, your training that led up until where you are in your career at the moment, and which kind of aspects do you think helped you the most and which didn't? Yeah. Tell us about Berkeley, I guess, if that's where you want to start.
Yeah, actually, let's start a year before that. Right out of high school, I knew, I was going to do some sort of go to college or university and pursue that. But I did want to take kind of a flex year, but I didn't want to waste time. So I think at that stage, just where I was at as a teenager, I was like, I don't really understand the technological side of things. I was able to, write pencil and pen and whatnot, but you can even look on YouTube, like there's not a lot of media composers that are still doing pencil and pen, right? So everyone has now transitioned into the technology side of things, using computers, using synths and DAWs and all this technology. And I didn't really understand it. So I took a audio engineering course in just locally. It was called Hot Soul Music. Now it's called Nimbus Recordings School or something. Yeah. So I did that with Kevin Williams, and it was 7 months, I think, every day for like 4 or 5 hours, something like that. Honestly, that was so much information. Understanding like signal flow, compressors, plugins, how a mixing board works, right? And just getting that kind of, I think that is really fundamental information now for the modern composer. Just to be able to understand how all these things work, how you plug them all together, how you actually utilize these tools so that you can write. Like now I'm able to write like really fast compared to, traditional kind of means. In the sense where what I'm producing is more or less like a deliverable, right? So maybe we write at the same speed, like pencil and pen, but it's all just a sketch. It doesn't have any sound, right? So now it's, as you're writing, you're just filling in the sound of instruments and whatnot. So I think that was arguably one of the most important kind of just fundamental things to know. And then I went to Berkeley. They had some really good programs about then taking all that knowledge that I had and then like implementing it. So the DAW they used at Berkeley was Digital Performer. So I still use that one. I think you can get away with using any DAW. Like they do all the same things. It's just how you interact with them. But learning, how to incorporate the signal flow from a studio into the signal flow on your computer, using aux tracks, mixing tracks, stereo tracks, right, and all the buses, and then combining these things to get the sound. So I think that is one of the more the areas that kind of like differentiates like a starting kind of digital composer with someone who's been around for a while, right? Just like the music quality may not be that different, but just like the end result of what you're hearing is pretty distinguishable. So Berkeley really enforced like, hey guys, like try to make it sound as good as what you hear on like sample library kind of examples, right? Because that's kind of the standard. So
So sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
When you say Berkeley College of Music, did you go in person or was it online that you did it?
Oh yeah. So I moved to Boston. I went. Spent 2 years there. At the time, I don't know what their policies are now because I was like 2009 or something. I was able to. So I did like the whole RCM piano harmony program. So I was able to actually challenge out of a whole semester worth of credits, just with their basic theory. So I did 5 semesters straight at Berkeley, which I wouldn't recommend doing summer school. You need a break. Like everyone needs a break. That was insane.
Yeah.
So I did 2 years there just because the cost. It's very expensive place to go. And then I came home. I did all my liberal arts and sciences sort of thing at UFE in Abbotsford. And then I was able to just transfer the credits over. And then I think I graduated from Berkeley 2011. So yeah, that's kind of how I started. And then again, with the intention of doing like film music. So.
So you had always known, you always knew that you wanted to be a composer, that's what you wanted to do.
I think the desire to be a composer was somewhere when I was around 15, and I just kind of was getting lost in all of John Williams' scores, right? And you're just like, wow, these are so good. They're so interesting, but, there is a lot of film music, which is, maybe more arguably on a basic level, orchestrally. And then you listen to John Williams stuff, and it's just all of it is absolutely mind-blowing.
I do have a question about Hans Zimmer, Alexandre Desplat, and all these other people later on. So let's save that thought about John Williams. I have it here. We have to talk about that, but it's a little bit later, or now if you prefer. But okay, so then after that, you did a master's in composition as well, did you?
Yeah. So again, I think all that postgraduate stuff or just graduate stuff was out of a desire to kind of maximize my time. Like if I'm honest, like freelance composition, you have like months where you're very busy, and then you have months where there's absolutely nothing. So I figured like I don't really want to spend the months doing nothing. During my undergrad at UFE, I was landscaping. I was taking up all these odd jobs, right, just to make ends meet. And I think that's totally normal. Everyone does that. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't just want to like fall back to something else. I want to like try to advance my skills, advance my knowledge. So yeah, I figured let's supplement that time that I'm trying to write professionally with more education. And the program at UC really interested in me because, while Berkeley was more on the technical kind of side of things, they didn't like the program I was in. I think they have a composition program, so I'm sure that aspect of it would have been covered there. But I was in the film scoring, so the whole methods of like traditional orchestration, string writing, brass writing, the actual concert setting for writing was lacking at Berkeley. And I felt that the composition program at UBC could supplement that gap, I guess. So yeah, so when I did my master's, I had the technical like prowess under my belt. I felt really confident with that, and now I could take those skills I had and actually like create more convincing arrangements and more convincing orchestration. So everything now all of a sudden sounds better because I'm actually writing for like players, right? I'm not writing for my computer. So it translates into a more convincing final product, if that's how I want to say it. So
plus you now learn how to resolve a suspension. So
yeah, and all those crazy German sixth chords and stuff. Yeah, so it was great. Like you learn all this extra theory and all this more advanced. Man, it's been so long. I feel like so out of touch with things, right? So my master's, I think I was done in 2015. Yeah, 6 years ago. I don't know how much I remember, but it was worth it at the time, right? Yeah. So.
Oh, excellent. And then you presumably you already, your composing professional career was sort of, off the ground. You were sort of doing things, but then you decided to go back to school. Did you take a break between masters and
No.
and your DMA?
No.
Oh, you right through?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So I think I was encouraged by Dr. Chapman to apply. So I only applied actually to UBC for my doctorate. It was kind of like, I felt like I like gained a lot from the master's, and I didn't necessarily need to do the doctorate. But I'm like, I'll apply, see if I get in. If I get in, great. I'll continue on. If I don't get in, that's fine. But it ended up working out, so I just continued on, and yeah, it was great again, right?
Yeah.
At UBC, they offer the same courses for doctorate and master's levels. So yeah, I just got to do more kind of those courses and gain more knowledge. And yeah, it was actually a really good experience. I really enjoyed doing most of the master's and doctorate at UBC. So.
I think something important to point out is that excuse me, I see this with a lot of musicians, more on the performer's side. I'm not saying you're not a performer, but somebody that doesn't compose. Let's say that. I've seen this so much. Like virtually everybody I know is a musician. I don't have any friends basically that are not musicians. So and I see this so much. You go, okay, got to the end of your bachelor's. Maybe you're a violin performer or clarinet, oboe, something like that. Get to the end of the bachelor's, you go, I have no idea what to do. I'm 23.
Right. Yeah.
Go to a master's, and of course your professor goes, my studio got bigger. Good for them, and good for you, I guess. Get to the end of the master's, and you go, oops, I'm 26, 27 now. I still don't know what to do.
Right, yeah.
Go get more school now. Okay, a DMA program, I just got admitted because, I kind of hate writing papers, so PhD is not for me. Let me go do a performance DMA, loiter around a practice room for another 4 or 5 years, or 3, or whatever that is. I'm definitely not saying you did that, but I've seen so much of that. And that what I'm hearing you say is that, you were already doing it. You already had freelance gigs. You were doing these things. The technology side, you got that under your belt first at Berkeley. Then you picked up all the classical orchestration techniques and all that just to expand your knowledge. I assume was your objective, and the more you did it, the more tools that gave you on your little belt, tool belt, I guess.
Yeah.
But you already had a very clear avenue where you could apply those things.
Yes.
Yes, you already had it. But the hypothetical other example that I gave you, it's sort of kind of grasping around in the fog.
Right.
Oh, let me just grasp at a DMA. Let's see if that does anything.
Yeah.
Let me grasp at an MMUS. Oh, they told me go to a really good school because that helps. But it doesn't sound like that was the case with you. You definitely knew what you were wanting to do. You just wanted more, chisels and screwdrivers and hammers, so to speak.
Yeah, and arguably, like, I was actively doing it at the same time.
Yes.
Right. So my quality of work, I think, got better. I was able to I felt more confident raising rates as the years went on. So my product was better. I was offering more. Yeah, it is a big question. Like, was school the best use of, because ultimately it comes down to like a monetary equation, right? I'm going to put in this many dollars, I'm going to get this.
Yes. Could
Could I have put in less dollars, found a private instructor, and got the same result?
Yes.
Right?
Return on investment.
I will say, in my industry, no one has ever even considered degrees or asked or care. Like, it's never brought up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't introduce myself as Dr. Koenig. It's much more informal. It's kind of maybe icing on a cake that they already would have taken anyway, because I had a really eye-opening experience. I think it was Hummy Man. I hope I got that name right. He's a composer in North Vancouver. He does a lot of TV.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, that's not him. Hummy Man was a guy I took lessons in Seattle with, and he was great.
I see you already practicing to be an old man.
Oh, what was his name? This is not good. Hal. His name was Hal. Hal Beckett. That's it. Sorry. I apologize, Hal and Hummy. Hal Beckett did a guest lecture at UBC. So he's from North Bend, and he does a bunch of TV stuff. And Hal said, which was very eye-opening at the time, no one cares about your education. They only look, and actually he said no one even cares how good you are. They only look at the list of credits. He's like, get your name on as many things as you can, because that has more clout in the industry than you being able to compose like a 30-minute symphony or an hour-long.
And he was referring to scoring for film in particular, talking to composers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is pretty directly relatable to video games as well.
Yeah.
So I make a point to list like everything I've worked on, no matter how small it is, because it's a credit and it shows that I'm being active, I'm continually working on things. I have a lot of experience with a lot of different devs, and I think that is more. It's more valuable than higher education in some sense for paying gigs and continually getting new gigs. So
that's right. I mean, I have a similar number of pieces of paper on the wall.
Right.
No, I do compose as well, but I like to perform what I do. Not saying that you don't, but nobody's ever asked me.
Right. Yes.
Oh, you have a PhD. So what? Can you play?
Yeah.
It's never really come to that. So, those of you listening, take note. I've never been asked to show a degree before I go to a festival or a concert or a tour or something, and I bet you Riley hasn't either. Microsoft calls. He goes, okay, well, send your diploma copies to our HR department for verification first, if you could, please. Yeah, but I've composed for nobody cares. Show me your degree first. That seems quite backwards, right? So,
yeah, and even with degrees, like the grades aren't asked either, right? So it's not really even how well you do. It's like, oh, you have it, great.
Yes,
so,
yeah. To completion. In classical economics, that's called the sheepskin effect. In centuries past, diplomas used to be printed on sheepskins. So the effect that an economist called Brian Kaplan discovered is that theoretically, sorry, it's a bit of a tangent, but it is relevant to our discussion. If, let's say, you quit school the day before graduation date, you go, no, I quit. So you don't get the diploma that you were going to get tomorrow. In the in the marketplace, you're worth less than you would have been the next day after you get the diploma. And big, thick book, it's called The Case Against Education. And he lays it out in sort of dense, thick economic terms. I don't recommend that to anybody. But that's what he outlines, the sheepskin effect, in that the day before graduation, you're actually worth way less in the economy. Whatever the field is, that's an overall effect he discovered. He didn't discover it, he documented it pretty well. Then after you get your diploma. But I've always wondered, I've never found kind of detailed research in our field, if that's actually the case, the sheepskin effect. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. That does remind me. There's like I think annually there's a video game sound or music survey that goes out, and it polls how many people are actively working, what degrees do you have, what's your pay range, and it all documents it out actually. And it's really interesting to see, like, quite a few people do have bachelors in music of some sort. And the more education you have, it doesn't directly correlate to your income, but it's all over the place. Like it doesn't really seem to be a direct correlation between more degrees and higher income, but it does. There's like actually a majority of people do have degrees, so they are still going, and like that is their first step, right? It's I don't think it's the norm to just be like, I don't need university, I'll just try to do it. So yeah, that is kind of interesting that people are still putting value in that degree, whether or not it pays off or not.
Right. I should probably get my hands on those studies that you said, just to.
Yeah, I'll send them to you after.
Excuse me. And that sort of leads into my next question. I was going to ask you how well, we sort of answered it, but how much of an effect would you say your formal training had on your overall career? Because you don't want to minimize your own natural talents and
Yeah.
interpersonal skills, networking. That's if you
Oh,
have to do if
that's
you
a
have to do
whole that's a whole other thing.
well, let's discuss if you had to do a pie chart
Yeah.
of the pie chart that kind of makes your excuse me, that makes your professional life what it is. Kind of what percentage would you give to formal training and then networking connections and luck?
But yeah, luck is huge, especially in this industry. I think like as I started, it was like 100% performance related, music ability. And then as I started, exploring what it takes to keep going, it's like networking should be like 50%. Like most of my jobs have been as a direct result of people I have become friends with, people I know, people who have then recommended me, instead of like applying and searching, and just kind of like cold calling. So I would say like 80-90% of like almost all the gigs I have been directly because of networking. And I think networking is, well, obviously this year it's been almost impossible. So to make new networks kind of thing. So that's been a really challenge. But starting out, like I went to, there used to be there still is, it's called Full Indie. And there used to be a monthly meetup, a bunch of indie game devs sort of thing. And you just go, you make friends, you talk. And then once, everyone is either your friends have been like, hey, I have a new project. I need a composer. Who's the first person I think of? Oh, Riley. Great. Yeah, I just saw him, a couple of weeks ago and I really enjoyed talking to him. So then he talks to you. Funny enough, so the audio production house that I was working in, there's two sound designers there that I became really good friends with. I left, and then shortly afterwards, they also left, started their own thing. So that was Power Up Audio. And they were like, well, we need a composer. Who was the only one we know? Like me, I spent some time working with them. They're like, Riley's an awesome guy. We really like working with him. So then they brought me on, and we got, we've been doing work since 2012 together sort of thing. And it's been a really beneficial relationship. I think more so for me, but and then through that, they've introduced me to other people, and I've gotten other gigs through them, and it's kind of just like, spreading out now. And like it takes years, unfortunately. Like you just got to hunker down and continue expanding your network, right? So I would say the skills required are like at least 50% networking, and then there's also the business side too, right? Like once you actually get going, managing resources, managing finances, documenting everything, making good business decisions, negotiating contracts. There's tons there. That's like, I'm thinking like, well, that's 20%. And then how much is actually left for writing here? We got 30% left. So
actually I have a guest coming on the show in thinking about 5 or 6 weeks. He's an entertainment lawyer. Very, very prominent entertainment lawyer.
Oh, cool.
Not from the Vancouver area, from Toronto.
Oh, okay.
And because I wanted to address some of these things, some of the legal side of what we do. There's tons when it comes to copyright, licensing, particularly digitally. He does specialize in the digital world and how that works. So that'll be, to me, very enlightening conversation, and hopefully to all of you watching. But yes, it's not like, you don't get... Well, let me ask you, what's a typical workday for you? Now, obviously, we're recording this in mid-April 2021. The world hasn't ended yet, but is about to. So so if you're watching this from 2032, Vancouver used to be a city in the West Coast. So, I mean, obviously, I don't want to pretend, I'm not an ostrich with my head in the sand. Obviously, we're living in a very different reality for the past year. So is the whole world. But what was a typical working day for you like? Pre-COVID.
Like every day is one thing I do like about this job is every day is so different. Like I can spend some days, if I don't have a project that needs active attention, I'll spend the entire day just watching like YouTube videos on like tech other guys are using, how to implement that in my studio, setting up There's a bunch of like MIDI devices you can now put on your iPads that link directly to your DAW. So you have like a whole touch interface now. So just learning, like constantly learning, constantly like making my process more efficient, looking up new sample libraries. Like I could spend an entire day doing that, no problem. And it doesn't seem like you get anything done, but it does help the overall product. On a typical writing day, I'll look, see if there's any immediate emails or things that need attention. I can't really write for more than 6 hours straight. It's just a mental fatigue. So we'll spend like 6 hours, get as much done as you can. After that, I feel like it's just kind of like hitting my head against a wall, and the product I'm creating is like, it doesn't make sense time-wise, because I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to change everything the next day, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So once I'm like happy or with what I have, or I'm kind of like done, exhausted mentally, that's when I'll be reaching out to the contacts, sending information, updating kind of schedules, getting critique, getting feedback, and then kind of getting it all ready for the next day. And then I'll start again. I'm very much a morning person, so like my best writing is before noon. I know, it's crazy. I'm up at like 6:37, right? So I'm ready to work at 8, right? I've had my coffee, watch the news, start writing 8:30, go till like lunch, have a little break for lunch, and then I think I'm done around like 2 or 3. So yeah.
Well, the reason I'm asking is that I used to teach at a couple of colleges and universities, and talking to young musicians, at that age, at that stage of their careers, they sort of have this kind of illusion that, well, all you're going to do as a professional musician is just wake up in the morning and just play your instrument all day. Because that's, for many of us, that's our primary love. It's our first instrument. Yeah. Or second, whatever that is. But it's the creating of it, sit down on the piano and then, go for a stroll, get inspired by the ducks in the pond, that kind of thing. Basically, I've heard that from nobody that I've talked to on the show and in private conversations. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Other than maybe the concertmaster of the Calgary Orchestra that I talked to last week. A lot of her life is practicing, but she also has a lot of administrative work. So you think an orchestral musician, yes, that is the one job where that's what you have to do. Mm-hmm. And from what I understood, she doesn't do a lot of teaching, or maybe she does, but I'm misremembering that. But you think, okay, yes, orchestral musician, that's where you just get up and, oh yes, my violin, yeah, that's what you do all day long. Well, you doesn't sound like okay, primary passion composing maybe for Dr. Koenig, but there's the admin. You got to sort out your tax receipts. Yeah. You go, oops, did I let me check. Maybe there's some tech stuff comes up. You've lost a library, now you got to do that. That takes forever.
Oh yeah, computer issues. Yes, just maintaining your system. Yeah. I've had some days where, so I run multiple computers and all my samples are on another computer, and it went like it bricked itself, and all of a sudden I still have to write. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I reinstall everything on. It takes a whole day, right? Your day's gone. Yeah, and you feel like you've done nothing. I guess just maintenance. So, making backups. I'll have backups. Have a bootable backup or access to. I use Mac, so the Time Machine is great. If you do ever have an issue, if file gets corrupted, Time Machine, grab it. I also have Dropbox, so there are multiple different backup scenarios. Time Machine is great though if your computer does die. Restore from a backup, you can just restore your whole system, you're back up and running in a couple hours. Mm-hmm. But yes, it's not all fun, right? You got all this admin stuff, invoicing, just checking up on other projects that you've been inquiring with, right? And then keeping track of all those. If someone says they need something, but they inquired 2 months ago, and now you're just like, oh yeah, well, I should go send them a reminder. And I do like to practice still. I do try to make that part of my daily routine. After I'm done playing, I'll so I picked up the cello just last year or 2 years ago now, and I had a gift receipt for Long McQuaid. I was like, what could I do with Long McQuaid? I'm like, let's rent a cello. Let's try it out. I really enjoyed it. So that's something that I'm doing, and obviously playing the piano still. But yeah, I don't practice more than 30 to 60 minutes a day. So
excellent. But yeah, we still do it. That kind of leads me to my next question, which would be, given the sort of the profile of a film excuse me, and a game composer, who would you say that this line of work is not for? Given particularly all these, the multitude of things that you've mentioned, it's not just pen and pencil, pen and paper or writing music. No, it's so much technology. It's admin. It's you're a, well, I'm assuming you're a private business from an economic point of view.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into that. Deductions, claims, receipts, all that stuff. There's the legal stuff, and there's sometimes for the creative stuff as well. So, given all these things, and there's probably much more that you haven't mentioned, who is this not for?
I would say
what I mean.
I'll say who it is for. Like, I think the biggest thing to be successful at this is being a self-motivator and just being able to, like, every day, no matter how easy it is or how hard it is, just like get up, go through the routine and like put 110% in every day. And just like having that, the discipline to, not get distracted. Like I've been working from home since 2012, right? And it's very easy to get lost in YouTube or get lost playing games and then realize, oh, there goes my workday. I've actually done nothing.
Yeah.
And to have that discipline to be like, nope, okay, this is my focus time. Even if I don't have a project on the go, let's spend this time looking for one, making connections happen. And I think that if you're not a good self-motivator and you don't have the discipline to like actively, like nobody is telling you have to work, right? So it's very easy to get lost and just be like, I'm going to go for a walk today, or I'm going to do, and I've done it. I mean, I think yesterday I went for a hike because it was just so nice, and I can do other things.
It's a great day. Today's even warmer actually. So
yeah. So I think that is the biggest thing in my opinion. If you can't be self-motivated, if you can't have that discipline, then it's not for you. Like so.
So again, it comes to the age-old maxim: know thyself.
Yeah.
If you know, if this sort of professional lifestyle, if you could call it, has a certain amount of, well, chaos, let's call it, in it, because it's unpredictable in the sense that it's not predicted by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the sort of person that, you like the daily routine and the structure, here's my office, 9 to 5, I like that, it's stable. Every 2 weeks you get a paycheck, it's fine. Not just music related, but anything else at all.
Yeah.
Of an interview coming up with the elementary school music teacher. And she likes that kind of thing. Yes, it's predictable, but it's also creative. She loves children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine, but that's a personality thing. You can't just prescribe that to everybody. It's the professional lifestyle that we've just heard from Riley. Oh no, that can work for everybody. If you're creative, do this. No, because there's other personality and psychological things that come into it. Mm-hmm. If you rather have the order and the predictability, because maybe that, I don't know, I'm not married. I don't have kids as far as I know. So that could, but that does provide some sort of, how do you call it, like domestic stability. There's some sort of predictability to it. Well, if that's not you, you have to, seriously reconsider that, because there's kind of lifestyle implications to that.
It's very interesting. So this kind of lifestyle of unpredictable paychecks, months of feast and then months of famine, and just being able to try to manage what you have to like last until that next gig. So that's very, I guess, normal for me now. Like I've never really worried about it. I'm like, oh, something will come up. Something always has come up. And then I got married, and my wife comes from, 9 to 5 a job. She works in the tourism industry, very stable. She will always have a career, except this last year. But anyways, so for her to be like, Riley, you didn't have a gig this month. Like you didn't make any money. What are we going to do? I'm like, it's fine. Like something will come up. And she had a really tough time, kind of like dealing with that stress, because it does get stressful at times, right? You're not guaranteed anything. It's all about kind of, I don't know, there is luck involved and just making those networks. And so she had a really tough time with it. And it was just interesting to see, because I didn't really even give that a second thought. It was just, well, this is what it is. But there's that other side where no, you could have a stable income if you want.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So what would you then say to a young, young, not about young, I guess, but somebody early on in their career who's maybe listening to this and going, oh, well, that kind of lifestyle with so much going on and it's unpredictable, and the paycheck in particular. What would you say to a person like that who is also thinking of, they would like a family,
Yeah.
they would like a spouse, and they have children maybe, and they're, it's on their big to-do list of life, but they're hearing that there's sort of unpredictability, instability that comes with that.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would say so one thing about this being work is it's not always fun. Like anything that you have to do for work, because you have to do it, all of a sudden becomes not fun. So I would almost say, like, find something you enjoy, you can tolerate, that gives you that stability, so that when you do composition, when you do your music, when you do practicing, it's a hobby and it's enjoyable every single time you do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I've read a lot of, like, I've looked up Reddit things, like people are being like, I'm 35, I haven't made it. I thought I would by now. Like, what am I doing? And it's like, honestly, there's no shame in finding a stable job that can propel you, throughout life. So you get to actually go out and enjoy. Like, there's so much to life. It doesn't have to be just music. Mm-hmm. And then when you do find time for that music, it's always enjoyable. And you just, it's going to be that hobby that keeps you going throughout whatever you have something to look forward to, right? When I wake up, I'm not necessarily like looking forward to, I have to write this music for this game. I know it sounds kind of, I guess it sounds kind of snobby, but it's not always enjoyable. It's a lot of it is, for sure. But you can make it like your passion, right? It can still be a part of your life, and it can still be fulfilling without the financial stresses and like, day-to-day stresses of, will I have a paycheck at the end of this month?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, that's for sure. But
no. That's what it sounds like, and that's what I wanted to outline in our interview. That I have a big interest in psychology as well, in personality psychology, and that it's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. You said self-motivation, a self-starter, as it's kind of fashionable to say. If that's not you, I would sort of say that somebody kind of more predisposed towards anxiety and, the trait neuroticism, that sort of thing, that kind of professional instability can probably exacerbate those things. So, and I do know from, musical colleagues of mine that having, I go to that music school, 3 hours a day, I go teach there, but that gives me a check. It's not huge, but it's a check. So I know, okay, rent's covered. Now I can go hustle for gigs and do that, but that provides you that kind of stability. So again, know thyself. Know what you can handle.
And I do want to mention, like, I don't want to create the illusion that I've had success like the entire time and I've never had to have any jobs. I drove garbage trucks for my brother-in-law for a summer, right? I did a part-time teaching gig. I do private composition lessons. Like, I'm never going to turn down an opportunity for, something that is like guaranteed income for a certain amount of time. Right. I think, in the last few years, I've definitely kind of weaned myself away from that. But yeah, for the first, I would say 6-7 years, I usually had something else that I could rely on. I think I did like web development for one of my cousin's companies, right? It's so many random and like not associated with music or any of my skills that I kind of just like self-taught, and I was like, okay, this is actually going to provide some income for the next few months, so as I don't have any projects going on. So it's a reality, I think, of any composer getting started, or freelance composer especially. Like, do whatever you got to do to survive to make it to the next project. So it's not easy by any means, right?
Right. No, nobody said so. No, I suppose I used to cook at restaurants throughout my undergrad years because I always had a love and passion for cooking. And a good thing that you only see me this much. Staying at home, I've gotten pretty good at my cooking. But throughout my undergrad years, I used to cook in restaurants. Finish school, then go and do the evening shift at a restaurant. And but I had to do it, to pay for school and support myself. And I stopped eventually. I got busy and, things moved on. But you may have to do that.
Mm.
But by doing those jobs, I think you can be strategic, I guess. Like you did web development, you said.
Yeah.
But that taught you skills.
Yeah.
Well, evidently you haven't been using those in the updating of your own website, right? No, his website is freshly updated. Click the link down below.
Oh, man. I wonder if the copyright's even updated.
Yeah, it has to be the current year.
I know, right? That's a thing. Oh, yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah. I'm going to leave a link down below. So, guys, click it. Go check out his website. There's all these credits, all the zillions of games he's worked on, and the movies. It's all there. You can check it out. And, of course, you can contact him for any professional engagement or consultation.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free.
Or marital advice or anything like that, I guess. Yeah. Don't ask me about that.
I recently had a baby. Give me tips to keep her asleep. That would be great.
Yes. What key is best for lulling the young one?
I've been playing a lot of Bach for her lately. The Brandenburg Concertos, oh man, puts her right on. It's great.
Of course. I think that's a bit of a human universal. If I remember going to concerts, the Brandenburgs do tend to put all listeners to sleep. So that's
very effective. Yeah.
It's consistent, yeah. Anyway, I wanted to ask him, just be mindful of the time, of course. Oh, so yes, we talked about family life. If you'd like to be, a married person in your life, how that might work. But Riley is also a young father, so parenthood, that's also, something maybe considering.
We're still figuring that one out. So.
Yes. And the young one was 16 months old, you said?
7.
Oh, sorry, 7. Oh, dear, oh dear.
Yeah, 7 on Sunday, so still very fresh.
Excellent.
Everyone's figuring it out, and yeah.
Yes. But do you have projects going on at the moment?
So I was able to take. I took about a month off, and so we just had some more projects coming on. So trying to work back and set up some working hours and still help out.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess perks of working at home, right? You have that ability to step in when your spouse needs you, and so.
Yeah, so you could look at it as a perk. Maybe one spouse has to keep going to work, but then you as the freelance musician, freelance composer, you can you have a home studio. I see. Are you in your own home?
Yeah.
Yes. So next door is where the baby is. So you could combine family life that way So don't see that as a deterrent. Oh no, I can never be a composer because I'd like to be a parent. Well,
right. Yeah. No, I know a lot of video game composers who have families and love them, and it's all working out. So
yes. So it can be done. The reason I'm mentioning that, I'm not prying around, but I have heard that concern from younger musicians saying, no, I'm actually going to accounting school because I want a steady job so I can have a family. You go, so you mean to tell me that no musician has ever had a child? They probably tend to have more than they know of, but come on. Just mindful of the time. I would like to go to. Obviously, we mentioned John Williams at the beginning. Excuse me. Let me run by you one of my theories.
Okay.
It's partly an observation, but partly a theory. It's sort of under research. I haven't published or written anything, but if I'm way off, tell me what you think. When I did my PhD, I studied a lot of economics because I was interested in the effects of government intervention in the arts and into the entrepreneurship and sort of the free market of the arts, and particularly the era of Louis XIV and what happened there. How do you censor art and what that tends to look like? So in looking at the economics of classical music and music in general, it's quite clear, and it's kind of generally known that around the 50s and the 60s, the market share of classical music declined. So there's a declined interest in public attendance, if you will, in overall interest in classical music. And that has been, that decreased market share has steadily declined even further until today. That's sort of what all the numbers show. But it may seem obvious, but it's kind of my little theory that what happened around that time and I'm not saying a precise year because I don't know that, but right around that time, the classical music continued to live into movies and video games. What's more popular than the music of Alexandre Desplat, who wrote the music for the last, I think, 3 or 4 of the Harry Potter movies? I mean, okay, we can argue about the definition. What do you mean by classical music? You know, I'm not interested about that. But look at John Williams that you mentioned, Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. What's more popular than that? Well, okay, Lady Gaga, fine. But it's, what do you think about my little theory that classical music, the way it used to be before the age of television, before the age of kind of, you know, mass-produced cinema, and later on video games in the 70s and 80s, before the classical music used to be alive, where we remember it, I guess, you know, in the theater, in the concert hall, on the opera stage. But at that point, it really was put on life support. And then it transitioned into movies and games by such geniuses that we've already mentioned. What do you think about that?
I have some thoughts there. I haven't thought about this for a while, and I think all my examples I've now forgotten, but in a general sense, I would argue, you know, mid 1900s classical music was progressing in a direction that still tried to do new things, and it was taking it to a very extreme kind of space where it was not actually enjoyable to listen to.
That was my next question.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's not enjoyable to listen to, I can't see an audience growing to appreciate it. And then at the same time, I think, you know, movies came out late 40s, early 50s, started actually using romantic-based classical composers to score these films. And that tradition kind of continued. And then, yeah, you mentioned the overlap. And that definitely could be related to that kind of, okay, yeah, we don't get this new music, but we understood this from the past, and now it's actually in you know, integrating into popular culture. You know, I think film more or less replaced operas, right?
Yes, exactly.
So,
I've said that forever. When I used to lecture undergraduates, lecture to undergraduates rather, I always said that when we talk about Baroque opera and how that, you know, the visual spectacle, you combine everything, you know, the scenery, the lighting, the speech, the dance, the music, you combine all of that and you're looking at it into the frame. But the frame used to be the concert stage. Now it's you know, my little computer here, or before it used to be the TV. Nobody watches TV anymore. So that it kind of the kind of the drama, you know, the dramatic and the function that music played got transferred into, well, Hollywood, into cinema.
So, and I think, I mean, it's all popular culture, right? So what was popular back in the day has transitioned to now what is popular now. And I've heard, like, Star Wars actually was described as a space opera. Like, that was the whole reason behind it, right? It's just a big opera in space. So I can't remember your original question, but I think we talked about it.
Well, when you hear these, you know, highfalutin, high-nosed academics of music that say, no, classical music, you know, it lives on in the university and establishment.
Right.
It's in the symphony orchestras that we need to keep milking taxpayers for. And I said, no, that died in the 50s, but you haven't noticed. You're just keeping it on life support through government support, right? If it was supported by the general public, the people that wrote that kind of music, they'll be multi-billionaires like Hans Zimmer and John Williams, for all that, because they write music that people want to listen to in a medium, in a little package that people want. I'm not saying be a populist, although I'm very much in favor of that point of view. But do you see what I mean? Like in the general perception, it's you know, that's where it lives. It lives on in the symphony orchestra. No, it doesn't.
No,
it's in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, but it's just kind of general observation of mine.
Yeah, they're like, I can't think of, you know, a modern classical composer who is regularly having works performed in concert settings. It doesn't come to mind. Like, There's a few choral conductors that I can think of, Whitaker,
Sure.
for example, but
Oh, yes.
I think it's, I mean, by all accounts, his music is popular, right?
Yeah.
It's diatonic. It sounds nice. Like people enjoy listening to it. So yeah.
And that was sort of a point that I wanted to ask you. What do you? Well, it's my own show. I don't have to be careful about how I phrase this. I don't care. It's my own channel. Yeah, if you don't like the way I phrase it, go watch something else. But I have studied composition in university. I didn't major in it. Obviously, didn't go into the depth that you did. But what I have seen, I always enjoyed going to the concerts of the composition class, of the composition majors, and the stuff out here, the stuff that will come out of there, it's this what many have called academic music, heavily academized music. It's, you read the description that goes with it. Of course, it doesn't make any sense without that description. All the techniques that have been used, and this shows that and that shows that. You go, where is it? You go, okay, you're going to be out of here in about a year. You're going to be out of the school. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I don't know.
Because I've said it on different episodes that I think of myself as a musical populist and as a musical capitalist, in that I have my own private interests in music, but I have found through experimentation that for some of them, not many are willing to pay me for.
Right.
Well, so what? I'm still enjoying those forms of music making very much, but on my own. But I've realized that there's other of my musical interests that I can capitalize on, so that I can survive in the modern world, in a very expensive city. We both live in Vancouver, in Metro Vancouver. So there's a practical aspect to that. I'm not saying, lie to yourself. I'm not saying don't be true to your artistic nature. But there is a practical aspect to it.
Absolutely, yeah. I do remember also sitting in on those composer concerts and thinking to myself, like, other than us, some of us have to be here. Like, who is going to enjoy listening to this? There's like a violin just screeching on the upper string for 10, 15 minutes. And like, that was it. I was like, interesting. I don't know. It's not for me. Can't think of anyone else who would, enjoy this outside of this academic bubble. So
yes. It is a bubble. It is a vacuum. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And in the sense of like, let's progress or push what we think of classical music into this new realm and like explore the possibilities. Sure. Like if that's the intent of it, like great. Again, it's not gonna, I don't think it's practical. I don't think it's a practical application for a career in whatever. Like, I don't, it kind of comes down to who's going to pay you to make this. Like, because you have to make a living. Like at the end of the day, unless you have like a state-sponsored grant, right?
Well, but that's the thing. I beg your pardon. Sorry for interrupting, but that's what I see. Again, I should make it clear that I'm not criticizing what anybody has chosen to do with their own musical gifts. Mm-hmm. I'm an artistic libertarian, and politically as well. You have the freedom to do whatever the hell you want on whatever instrument you want to do. I have the freedom to not pay you to listen to that stuff. We have a very, very, very short amount of time that we're given on this earth by Mother Nature, and if you decide to spend that doing whatever contemporary new extended techniques you play with your cat and with your nose, fine, have at it. If that's what makes you happy on this planet, that's what you should do, no problem. But what I see with a lot of these performers specializing in this type of music, they tend to like, look at my next project, funded by the government of Canada. Here's my next CD. We acknowledge the grateful support of the BC Arts Council. You go, hang on a minute. So you're just pandering to others. It's a peer assessment committee. Right. You pulled the professor out of the school. Well, what is he going to think? You're his student. Guess what? You got the grant. So stuff like that, it never actually gets the true test of the marketplace, which is why I called my show Music Business Today, because there is the business aspect of it. If you and I got together and we said, hey, look, I have this great idea. We're gonna make pagers. You're old enough to remember that. So we're going to make pagers, man, like all this great technology, a little 5G, all that kind of stuff. We're going to make the best pager in the world. Is a top product. Nobody wants it. Like, oh, I got out of Juilliard and I
Right.
specialize in contemporary extended techniques on the violin. Here's my dissertation. Who cares?
Right.
Yeah, so there's the practical aspect to it.
Yeah. I think on the
Again,
flip side of that,
yeah.
you look at the successful musicians in our day and age, like who are top 10 popular, artists. And I wonder about like how much, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Not like advanced musicality, but like how much it's very simple. It's like kind of base level music craft, I guess. But somehow like that's what is the popular culture. That's what's catching on. Like, yeah, it's catchy, it's simple, great. So I think it's like a real imbalance. Like the people who are really pushing the boundaries, yeah, maybe you're pushing too far. And then the people who aren't really doing much musically to push anything are like the ones really successful. And so it's where's that like the really gifted musically advanced kind of artists, like where do they fall? Like it's like I've listened to a few artists that I'm like, wow, these guys are amazing. Like I guess technically speaking, like their music craft, right? The way they use all the different harmonies and the different melodies. There's like so much in there, and nobody has heard of them. And and then so it's just like a weird time to be a musician, I think. So if you do want to be really well, do you quote unquote sell out to do that music, the simple music, I don't know. It's a weird music business, music culture time. So yeah.
You sort of asked a question, where are those people, the really educated, really skilled musicians that they know how to handle the materials of music, but they also do it in a way that's culturally viable, let's say, or culturally appreciated, or something like that. Well, that's you.
Oh.
That's what I was trying to argue when I was, you could say criticizing kind of more academic composers, more academic musicians, that it's the kind of the vacuum, the bubble, the echo chamber, because you just play for your professor and he's sitting there with his clay pipe going, yeah, very well, okay, here's an A+. But it's an echo chamber. But then you take that kind of, the highest, amount of skill and control of your profession. This is the craft aspect of it. And you take that and you put it in a commercially viable setting, and you have you.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to talk to you, because yes, it's true. And, there's all these articles coming out. Oh, look, the amount of complexity in popular music has been decreasing. Oh, look, they use fewer harmonies. Oh, look, the vocal range has been decreasing.
Right.
And
so yeah.
On and so forth. Yeah, a lot of studies like that have been coming out. You go, okay, but what I think is becoming more and more interesting to listen to is movie music and video game music.
Yeah.
I definitely think so. So having said that, who's your favorite movie composer?
Oh, man, there's so many. I've been on like a John Powell binge lately.
What has he done?
He did the Bourne movies. He did How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes.
Yeah. I think he should have won the Oscar for How to Train Your Dragon, but I'm very disappointed when he didn't win. Obviously, like John Williams is a big favorite. He got me into this whole thing. I think like Hans Zimmer does amazing things. Elfman does amazing things. Alexander Desplat does amazing things. Who else? Yeah, I try to listen to as much as I can, and you learn so much. And it's kind of funny because all these guys are like, don't listen to us, listen to Debussy, listen to Ravel, listen to, other classical composers, because that's where they draw their inspiration from. So, yeah.
Yes, you could probably say you if you're a musician, you cannot possibly understand the music of Star Wars without understanding Mahler, I would say. And particularly the planets, I think there's a lot of...
who did the planets?
Gustav Holst.
Holst did the planets, yeah.
Beg your pardon, yes. Gustav Holst.
Mahler's
also Mahler.
for sure. Yeah.
Yes, and And
Yeah.
John Williams has said himself that Mahler and Holst have been huge influences on him, particularly with the picturesque kind of aspects of
Yeah.
their music.
Probably Webern too, right?
Possibly, yeah, I suppose. It, it was a big kind of realization that I had a couple of years ago. It was I was in Montreal at the time doing my master's studies, and I went to a concert of the Orchestre Metropolitain in Montreal, and they were doing a concert of World of Warcraft music. And I've played it since it came out back in like 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, whenever that is. I played like the very first, like the
2004.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, what we now call WoW Classic, where you couldn't
Vanilla.
fly. Yeah, vanilla WoW. Yeah, yeah. But that's all there was. When I started playing it.
Yeah.
So I got the little brochure or thing. I go, oh wow, cool! Look at that. There's Illidan Stormrage. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I could barely get a ticket. Barely get a ticket. That whole beautiful, huge theater in Montreal where that orchestra is housed. I used to have subscription tickets as a student. I used to go. I barely missed a performance. I have never seen that hall that full ever.
Mm-hmm.
It was packed. A year later, the Vancouver Symphony, they did. I think it was Harry Potter that they did.
Yeah, their
Packed,
cinema nights.
Full. The cinema nights.
You can't buy a
sold
ticket.
out.
Yeah.
Yes. Same with the Calgary Orchestra. Excuse me. When they do video or film music in particular, not the pops, but video or game, sells out.
Mm-hmm.
Young people queuing outside to get in. And you ask
fun.
some of the musicians, and the musicians hate it.
Oh, really?
They hate it. I'm not referring to Diana Cohen from last week. I'm not referring to that. She didn't say that. But other musicians that I've talked to, they hate it. Oh, it's pop stuff. Like, all my chops, I practice all this Mahler stuff, and now I have to play Harry Potter. Look at all these faces in front of you. Hundreds of young people, and me, but hundreds of young people there who are just staring at a symphony orchestra for 2 hours, frozen in their seats.
I think my favorite, I've been to a few of these nights, and I think my favorite thing is like after like the first statement of a melody or something, a really iconic melody, like the whole crowd cheers, right?
Of course.
They go crazy.
You get chills because you remember maybe the scene where something happened in the movie or the game, and you relate to that. It gives you the chills, and it's such a magical moment.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those at the VSO, and I mean they're all so good. I don't know why they wouldn't have fun doing those.
They are, and they sell out. So you think if they did more of that, like they do the full season, September to December, and you run through the top 10 most popular video games.
Yeah,
they're gonna balance their damn budget finally. Finally they're gonna do that.
Maybe they can afford to like pick up some like up and coming local composers. Like I know there's tons of guys who would love to get their stuff.
Well, there's one I'm thinking about.
So.
There's one I have in mind, but but no, that's absolutely a good point. There are lots of independent studios in Vancouver that do these sorts of things, games and movies. So, showcase them, and the composers that did the music, of course, and the programming person that did the whole game, show it at the back on the big screens that they have, and I think that's how you get people back into the concert hall, particularly the one with the symphony orchestra. Just books and books written about, and I have a whole full shelf of that about. The one I'm looking at is called "The Perilous Life of Symphony Orchestras." It's written by an economist. You read that, and you're going to pull your hair out because you realize it's such a simple solution, and I've seen it. I don't want to oversimplify things. It's not as simple as we're making it. Definitely not. But I've seen the full concert halls, and you've seen it as well.
Yeah, and they still charge full price for the tickets, or if not more, right? And they still sell out. So
yes, it was sold out. There was one that I missed. It was can't remember. It was like a decade ago, but I missed it. It was sold out 2 months in advance. I thought, and I was standing outside hoping to get a last minute thing. I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
Next week I went to the Brandenburgs, empty. There was barely anybody in.
Yeah.
And the ones that were there, they probably couldn't hear half of it. So, sorry, we're being funny, but that is kind of the reality of it. I think. Riley, what would you say? What's a dream project for you?
Ooh.
What would you like to do if you were like emperor of the world for a day? What would be your dream project?
I mean, it used to be I always wanted to work on a. Actually, it still is. I would love to work on a Blizzard game.
Ah,
I don't care which one.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of basically all the Blizzard games. I grew up playing StarCraft. I played WoW for way too much. Right now I'm playing Heroes of the Storm. I used to play Overwatch. Do you play HOT?
What's right?
Do you play Heroes of the Storm?
I have in the
Yeah,
past.
okay.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big favorite. It's 20 minutes, you're in, you're out. It's great.
Yeah.
So any Blizzard, if they want to contact me, that would be hilarious. But I would love that. That would be like, I feel like I've made it if I worked on a Blizzard game. So that's kind of an interesting concept, feeling like you've made it or not.
Ah, yeah. See,
When
see,
do
I
you
was,
know when do you know you've made it? I don't know.
yeah. See, no, we're kind of drifting into the the more casual conversation, but that is a good point. When do you know that you've made it as a composer, performer, or anything like that?
Mhm.
I don't know, and that'll be, I think, part 2 of our conversation. I am very conscious of your time,
Oh,
and is there anything that you'd like to mention that we haven't, or a topic that we haven't touched on?
We'll save it for part 2.
Save it for part 2. Is there any sort of project that you'd like to sort of announce, or?
Well, right now I'm working on this. It's called it's a mech real-time and turn-based strategy game. It's called Phantom Brigade. Brace Yourself Games is making it. We're in early access right now. I think I've written an hour and a half of music for it. It's all dynamic music, so it's always changing. I think it's really cool. It's really well done. Check it out. Check out some trailers though if you don't want to buy the game right now. So, yeah, check that one out.
Excellent. I'm going to put links to that and to your website, of course, down in the description down below. So anybody interested, check it out. I think that's a good place to leave it.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Riley, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so
I really
much for
appreciate
this.
it.
This was so much fun. It was really nice seeing you again too.
It was my pleasure, my friend. I feel we could, crack something cold and keep going for another couple of hours, but you have parental duties.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for everybody watching and tuning in again. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, if you'd like to support my efforts. The PayPal and Patreon donation links are down below. And also check out Riley's links. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you next week.